Okay, let's start your discussion on the principles of assessment. So in this topic, you are reminded that there are different principles of assessment. Previously, it was discussed that these are some of the principles. Now, assessment should have a clear purpose. In other words, it should be aligned to our outcomes. Second is that assessment is considered not an end in itself. So assessment is just a part of the process. No? It's not the end yet. So it does not mean that once you are done with your assessment, tapos na yung obligasyon natin sa estudyante natin. Hindi, no? Actually, it is just about to begin. So it's only part of the process. Then the third is that assessment is an ongoing, continuous, and formative process. Now, we will focus on the fact that assessment is also learner-centered. In other words, class, pag sinabi nating assessment, hindi pwede na yung iniisip natin, class, is teacher-centered. Dapat class isipin natin that the assessment should be learner-centered. Okay? So class assessment should be learner-centered. It is not about what the teacher does, but what the learner can do. So hindi po pwede, for example, na ikaw na teacher, sabihin mo, oy, nagtuturo ako ng PE kaso hindi ako marunong mag-swimming. Huwag ko na lang siguro i-teach yung swimming. Okay? So it is not about you, but it is about what the learners can do. So as a teacher, remember that your role is to facilitate the learning process. Now guys, no, pag gusto nyong malaman what kind of teacher you are as of this time, you try to look into the web, you try to look into the internet. There is a questionnaire that would help you assess whether you are a student-centered teacher or you're a self-centered teacher. Okay? You try to determine if you are student-centered or not. Just for me to share, there was a time where in class we took the examination. We as teachers took the examination, and many of us are saying that we are student-centered teachers or learner-centered teachers. However, when the result of the examination came out, it turned out that we are not student-centered teachers, no, during that time. Okay, so try nyo assess yung mga sarili ninyo whether you are really student-centered or not. And class, this would provide teachers with an understanding again on how to improve the teaching process. Because class, the focus here is the student. So oftentimes, ano po yung pitfall natin bilang teachers? We oftentimes blame the students. Di ba? Pag mababa yung score ng students, anong usual naming sinasabi? Yan kasi hindi kayo nag-aaral. Okay? Or yan kasi online class, mga bobo, hindi nag-aaral nung online class. Okay? So class, as a teacher, dapat hindi po ganun yung perspective natin. Because our perspective is to improve our students, di ba? So for example, example lang ha. Okay, for example, si Rubea, halimbawa, student ko nung elementary example. Tapos na-notice ko si Rubea, parang hindi nakakaintindi ng topic namin sa mathematics. So one thing that I can do is that I would call Rubea's attention whenever we're having recitations para matrigger na rin si Rubea na, uy, dapat intindihin ko to. At saka dapat alam ko to. Pagkatapos, pag hindi pa rin niya nakakaya, I can call Rubea after class and tell her, Rubea, do you want to meet after class? Pwede tayong mag-review saglit about ng topic natin today. Because again, you are learner-centered. Okay? Now, the next is assessment is both a process and product-oriented. Plus, whenever, okay, let's forget education muna a little while. Whenever we talk about any concept, no, or whenever we talk about any process, class, any process would be leading towards product. Okay, class, any process, class, would be leading towards product. In other words, kahit ano pang proseso yung gagawin natin, class, di ba may tinatawag tayo na input, process, tapos meron tayong output. That output, class, will be our product. Okay, anything, may that be machines, may that be services, may that be food products that you will be talking about, may proseso tayo at may produkto. Now, class, when you talk about assessment, your assessment is both a process-oriented and product-oriented. Ibig sabihin, class, no, di ba sabi natin, may assessment na tinitingnan yung proseso, may type of assessment that allows us to improve the teaching process. What type of assessment is that? Ano ang tawag natin sa ongoing assessment na ginagawa natin wherein the teacher can improve the teaching experience? What do you call that?
Formative assessment.
Very good, no? So dyan papasok si formative assessment natin. And when we talk about assessment of the product that we have, what type of assessment do you think would be that? What type of
Summative
assessment?
assessment.
Summative,
That will
sir.
be your summative assessment. Okay? And one very important point here that you need to remember is that there is equal importance between the learner performance or the product and the process. Okay, so class, the same lang po yung importance ng produkto at saka ng proseso. Ano pong ibig sabihin natin dyan? No? In simple terms or in common examples, we do not actually mind if the score of the students is 10 out of 10 and the score of another student is 6 out of 10 as long as in the process they both learned. Okay? As long as in the process they both learned. Now, tingnan yung example. How about if 10 out of 10 yung student pero ayun pala nag-cheating? Okay? From that, is the process effective? Walang learning na nangyari doon because the student cheated. So daig pa siya ng isang estudyante na ang score is 5 out of 10. However, that student answered honestly. And from that, you can say that the student has underwent the process of learning effectively. Okay? Now, anong majors tayo? This is, let's see, meron tayong mga majors sa math at saka meron tayong major sa secondary education. What's Z nga? What's Z? Major in? What's the major of Z? Ano yung Z? Sorry, nakalimutan. Ano nga ba yung Z? Uy, ano yung Z? Sige. Uy, ano yung Z sa mga majors? May nakalagay BS Ed Z. Ano yung Z?
BS Ed, siguro sir, science.
Science? Hindi. S dito is science eh. Okay? May nakikita akong S, science. Yung M, di ba, math. E is elementary education. Yung S is secondary education. Tapos yung Z is science. Tama ba? Ganon?
Sir, excuse me. Sa
Yes.
pagkaintindi ko, sir, that's general, sir, ang elementary education.
Okay. General daw. Sige, sige. Now, let's talk na lang as an example. Let's talk about an experiment that you're doing in science. Okay? So let's say, for example, class, if you will mix, ano bang pwede nating i-mix? Mag-mix tayo ng, anong pwede nating i-mix? Sige, mag-mix na lang tayo ng powdered juice. Okay? Mag-mix tayo, class, ng powdered juice at saka ng water. Pag mag-mix tayo ng powdered juice and water, we know that we are making a solution. Halimbawa, nagdi-discuss tayo ng difference, di ba? Meron tayong solution, meron tayong colloid, different types of mixtures. Kaya halimbawa, yun yung topic natin, different types of mixtures. So meron tayong solution, meron din tayong colloid. Science major, ano pa nga yung ibang type ng mixtures natin? Tatlo yan eh. Okay, you have your solution, you have your solution suspension. Okay, meron tayong solution, meron tayong suspension, at saka colloid. Okay. So, halimbawa, class, nag-mix tayo ng juice at water. Tapos, alam natin, solution yan. Tapos, di ba, pag mag-mix tayo ng zoy at saka water, makikita nating colloid yan. Pag mag-mix tayo ng sand at saka water, magsususpend yan. So, magiging suspension. Now, here comes the student of yours na yung ginawa sa sand, for example, minix niya talaga as in super mix. Tapos, when you are asking them kung ano yung produkto, sabi niya, solution daw kasi daw the sand is well spread throughout the water. But you know as a teacher that supposedly you would want to demonstrate suspension. Right there and then, you need to educate the student that, halimbawa, sabihan mo, students, let's please wait for the solution. Or let's please wait for the mixture to settle down before we decide whether it is a solution, it's a colloid, or a suspension. Okay? Now, on that process, you are guiding your students kung paano yung gagawin nila in order for them to jump in the correct conclusion. That in itself, class, is an emphasis that process is as important as the product that they will have. Now, perhaps another example that I thought of is, di ba in science, merong mga times na tinuturuan natin sila on the importance of the components ng growth ng seeds. Di ba merong sunlight, Pagkatapos merong water, tapos merong ano pa nga ba? Soil, di ba? Sunlight, water, soil. Halimbawa, these are the three components na sabi mo sa kanila important for the growth of plants. Now, di ba there is a plant A. Plant A, no sunlight. Plant B, no water. Plant C, no soil. Tapos si plant D, complete package siya. Okay? Now, pag nakita ng student, for example, namatay si plant C. Picture ang elementary student tapos nakita yung namatay si plant C or hindi nag-grow si plant C. Tapos nakita niya si plant A, payatot. Ang payat-payat tapos yellowish yung appearance. So pag magkaganon, your students will feel frustrated, di ba? Kadalasan sasabihin, anong gagawin ni ma'am? Kasi hindi nag-grow. Hindi nag-grow yung hindi nag-grow ang aking plants. Baka mamaya pagsak po yung grade ko. Okay? So, guys, pag magkaganon, what we do as a teacher is that we also process their learning. Okay? Ano pong ibig sabihin ko ng process their learning? You ask them. Okay? Halimbawa, you instruct the students, bring your plants to school after 2 weeks, yung plant A, B, C, D. Tapos, tanungin nyo sila, ano yung itsura ng plant A? Allow them to describe it in front of you. Tapos, you ask them in unison, what do you think is the reason? Bakit ganun yung itsura ng plant A? By asking the question, class, na, what do you think is the reason? What is the probable reason why plant A appeared like that? You are already triggering the minds of the student na, may nangyari. Okay? Ay, baka nagka-problema sa tinatawag na photosynthesis na lesson namin last week. Ay, baka nagka-problema kasi walang chlorophyll na exposure sa sunlight, kung kaya walang food yung plant. Okay? So class, kung nakikita nyo, dyan po yung process. Dyan po pumapasok yung process. Now, if you can notice, the common thing kasi that we do is that we ask them to do an experiment and then we ask them to submit an output. Tama? Di ba? Yung ginagawa natin, you experiment, tapos papasa yung output. Pagpasa ng output, i-check mo lang kung correct or mistake. Pagkatapos bigyan ng score, balik kay student. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Again, there's nothing wrong with that. But you can improve it by doing a live processing. Just like what I've demonstrated to you a while ago. Para halimbawa, pag-demonstrate ng plant B, plant B, anong nangyari dyan? Bakit yung plant B parang alantay? Or bakit yung plant B parang namamatay? What's lacking on plant B? And then they will say, it might be because of water. So, meaning, if I will not water the plant, ito po yung mangyayari. Okay? You're allowing them to make conclusions. You're allowing them to make analysis. My dear future nurses, yan po yung tinatawag natin na processing. Yan po yung tinatawag natin na processing. Okay? Now, another example. In healthcare education right now, one thing that we commonly do already is simulation. This will not be true for healthcare only. Later on, class, kahit high school students, magiging focus na yan. Okay? Now, class, pag sinabi kong simulation, di ba, may mga robots kaming ginagamit. Pagkatapos, class, other than robots, may ginagamit kaming mga mannequins. So, for example, if I would want you to learn about injections, anong ginagawa? Doon ka sa mannequin mag-inject. Okay? If I would want to check, if you know how to check the blood pressure, pwede kitang ipa-check sa robot. Now, class, during the process of simulation, may tinatawag kaming pre-briefing. Pagkatapos, there will be the actual simulation. And then after that, you would have what you refer to as your debriefing. Okay? Class, ang pre-briefing, isipin nyo orientation yan. Pag sinabing pre-briefing, orientation yan. Pag sinabi ko, class, na actual simulation, nandiyan na yung action. Okay? Diyan sila magmamanage ng patient, diyan sila gagawa ng actual injection. Class, yung important point po dito is debriefing. Class, sa debriefing, diyan po kami nagpa-process ng experience. Ano pong ibig sabihin ko ng process the experience? Guys, halimbawa, nagkamali, si Rhea nagkamali. Okay? Now, I don't tell Rhea, bakit ka nagkamali? Hindi ganon. So, anong approach po? Okay, ganito yung approach namin. Rhea, what happened earlier? Tapos Rhea will say, you know what, sir, during injections, there were really a lot of blood and they did not expect that blood to come out. Tapos tatanungin mo si Rhea, Rhea, what do you think happened that contributed to that amount of blood? Or Rhea, what do you think can be improved to what you have done earlier? Are you getting my point, guys? Are you getting my point? The way I ask questions is that I'm not telling you na nagkamali ka, pero I'm telling you na there's something that we can improve. Okay? Now, sa mga nursing students ko to college, no, commonly class worst outcome is mamamatay yung patient. Worst outcome, mamamatay yung robot patient namin. So, pag mamamatay po yung pasyente, I don't bash my students and then say, hala, pinatay nyo, okay? Hala kayo, 0 yung grade nyo, pinatay nyo yung patient. No, that's not how we look at education. So, class, ano pong gagawin? Pag namatay yung patient, ganito. Students, what could have possibly happened that led to the death of the patient? Tapos sasabihin ng isa, Sir, mali po yung gamot na nabigay namin. Okay, now that you have realized that you have administered a wrong medication, what do you think happened? Why nagkamali yung medication na nabigay niya? Okay? So dyan class marirealize nila na maraming factors that would affect it. Tapos halimbawa sasabihin, Sir, hindi maintindihan yung sulat kamay ng doktor. And right away, we would teach them how to deal with that problem. Or Sir, hindi namin naintindihan yung order ng doctor. We will teach them how to deal with the problem. Sir, maling device yung ginamit namin. We will teach them how to deal with that problem. Okay? Because class, we are not only after the product, o yun ang product, patay yung pasyente, di ba? But we are after the process. Okay? We are also after the process because they are equally important. So when you are teaching later on, whenever you have activities like role play, whenever you have activities, for example, like experiments, do not forget to process. Ha? Kadalasan kasi anong nangyayari? Pagkatapos ng klase, pasahan na ng output, pagkatapos hindi man lang na-process. So grab the opportunity next meeting para mag-process. Okay? So halimbawa, nag-role play, no? Nag-role play tayo, 'di ba? Kadalasang ginagawa sa school, role play. Pagkatapos sasabihin, "Oy, group 1, ang galing mag-acting, 98%." Okay? Ang question, acting class nga ba? Acting class nga ba yung tinuturo mo? If you are teaching in a Filipino class, your goal there is to make them understand what are the issues, for example, in the society. Okay? So halimbawa, no? Halimbawa, si Kenneth yung actor. So sasabihin natin, guys, you've noticed earlier that Kenneth demonstrated poverty in his role play. Ano po yung nakita nyo sa enact niya? Okay? That's how you process because your goal supposedly is to make them aware of the issues in the society if that's your lesson for the day. Okay? Pero kadalasan, di ba, yung pitfall natin, okay, very good, ang galing mag-acting, ang ganda ng costume ni Kenneth. Costume class ba yan? Ha? Costume class ba yan? No? So, tingnan mo yung rubric. Ano ba yung rubric natin? Nakalagay ba sa rubric na may creativity? At saka, you always go back to your lessons. Okay? Are you getting my point, future teachers? Ha? You always process. And you know what? It's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. Okay? Next, assessment must be comprehensive and holistic. Pag sinabi po nating comprehensive and holistic, ito, anli na to sa kakaunit, ano? Variety of strategies and tools dapat. Then conducted in multiple periods over time. And then class, this is congruent to your OBE principle, which is expanded opportunity. Now, when we say class comprehensive and holistic, dapat we cover, no? We cover the vital skills, and in our terms right now, we refer to it also as your 21st century skills. Okay? 21st century skills. So class, the 21st century skills mo, nandyan yung learning skills mo, nandyan yung leadership skills mo, okay, and the like. No? So yun po yung mga dapat nating alamin. But anyway, what do we mean by that? For example, in the role play earlier that I've mentioned, diba, halimbawa yung topic natin sa role play, society issues. Class, sa society issues ko, yung rubric ko halimbawa 60%, okay, 60% doon sa pag-present ng issue. 60% plus sa pag-present ng issue. 20% sa manner of delivery. Okay, dyan ko ilalagay yung acting, dyan ko ilalagay kung paano siya magsalita, Diyan ko ilalagay class kung paano siya mag-facial expressions and the like. Tapos class, another 20% halimbawa, creativity. Okay? Now, bakit ganun yung rubric ni sir? Class, kasi gusto ko namang i-capture yung holistic type of learning. Diba? What do you mean by holistic type of learning? If I am developing you, for example, to become teachers, hindi pwede na ako lang yung nagsasalita. I am encouraging you to talk because part of the things that you will be doing later on is that you will be talking. You will be discussing. So maliban sa role play on society issues, nag-i-insert ako ng skill mo to talk for me to encourage you to talk, for me to push you to convey yourselves effectively when you are in public. Para holistic yung dating. Okay? Kung baga, hindi lang isang skill yung hinihit natin, we are hitting several skills at the same time. Okay? So that's what we meant by holistic. Then class, assessment requires the use also of appropriate measures. And when we talk about appropriate measures, those measures should be valid and those measures should also be reliable. So ibig sabihin class, when I say valid and reliable, dapat po yung ating mga questions or assessment is referred, no? Has references. So dapat may basis tayo. Sir, dapat nga ba kopyahin natin kung ano yung requirement sa textbook? Hindi naman. Pero class, basically what I meant is that the concepts that you should be testing should have references. Okay? And then other than that class, for it to be valid and reliable, it should measure what it intends to measure. That's validity again. Validity class, it measures what it intends to measure. Ano pong example niyan? For example, if you're having a English class. For example, you're having an English class. In an English class, you don't have to exam about x squared minus y squared. You do not also have to give an exam saying that the sum of two numbers is 7 and the product is 10. Okay? Hindi po ganun yung exam sa English. Hindi po yan valid kasi alam natin exam yan sa math. My example may be weird or may be very obvious, pero pas many times we fall into the trap that we are testing a different concept. So dapat guys, kung ano po yung focus ng subject mo, yun po yung concept na iti-test mo. Okay? That makes it valid. That makes it reliable. Okay? Do you have any questions so far?